A lot of the disasters that happen with children and future development are preventable. Adverse childhood experiences are known as ACEs. They're preventable. The difficulty is we didn't get trained in school or even before we had kids or when we had children with respect to concrete best practice parenting. So this is why we're presenting these videos. And if I sound a little intense, oftentimes we're hearing stories of years later, children are struggling with school, education, health and wellness, drugs, substances, addiction, even suicide. So that's where the intensity comes from. We can prevent a lot of disastrous things from happening by getting on top of this right away when you separate. We often get a lot of parents calling in. I want to get my child into therapy. My child's not doing well. And we ask, what's going on? Well, we've just separated, or we separated 4 months ago or 6 months ago. And the child's crying, the child's anxious, the child's maybe showing signs of depression. Sometimes they might even not want to go on. I've had those kind of comments as early as 7, 8 years of age. In the context of an arguing, upset family system, therapy for just the child would be contraindicated. It's not a good plan. Many parents don't hear that message. They go out and they say, I want my child in therapy because they're upset, they're not sleeping, they're not eating properly. When there's conflict and aggression in the family and upset and tension, then every animal in the system is not going to be functioning that well. Tension has a way of affecting the body's sleep center, digestive center, GI system. Our ability to be polite and friendly and even think and concentrate are often set aside for the disruption, for the tension. As long as that tension exists, we're not going to see a lot of settling for anyone in the family. So when we have people call in and ask for a child to be brought into therapy, as soon as we hear there's a context of upset, fighting, arguing, separation, divorce, violence, loss of a loved one, we often encourage parents to be involved right along with the child. It doesn't necessarily mean family therapy. It might mean that the child does have some individual therapy, and we want that child to actually be returning home to a family that's also bringing down the tension and the stress levels. Lots of times over the years I've worked with children, didn't follow best practice necessarily. Maybe I said, oh well, the parents don't want to be involved, so I work with the child and then send them home. 2 weeks later, seems like all the work's unraveled. A week later, all the work's unraveled. I'm kind of wasting your time, the child's time, and your money. So working with the system can help everybody get tips, strategies, and resources to bring down the conflict and to start to argue and disagree in a more healthy format and healthy way. I know a lot of people say you shouldn't argue, but arguing is a part of life. It's just a matter of how we argue, doing it a little more lovingly. I think of an 11-year-old girl that came in once. Parents sent her in. I only had the initial assessment with the parents, but they didn't really want to be involved. Lots of times the parents will say, no, this isn't for us, it's just for them, and I don't need anything like that. Well, neither does your child then. The message is loud and clear. If you don't need it, they could easily think they don't need it. So increasing their buy-in could be one of the side effects from parents being involved, and also increasing their willingness to be open to getting advice down the road. When it comes to getting your child in, think about getting yourselves in as well. It's a family system. We follow family systems theory where we're all connected by the emotional intensity as well as by the rules and roles. When a family separates, they still have a lot of the same rules and roles and structure, dynamic interactional patterns of behavior, and the emotional intensity tends to go up. Very connected. So getting a bit of coaching on how to adjust well, how to change the family structure, reminding the children that you're still a family, just in a different constellation or formation, living in different residences, drop-offs, pickups, all the different things you'll be faced with now that you weren't before can add a layer of stress along with your loss, sadness, upset that comes along with a separation and divorce. It's not easy for parents to adjust afterwards. It's not something that's going to happen like that. You're also going through the grieving stages. A lot of what we'll work on is parental unity with respect to parenting across two environments, keeping that consistent as much as possible, coaching parents on their various concerns, as well as the linguistics. A lot of times we're saying things and doing things we don't realize are hurting or harming, but they really can be. We can get into subtle alienation behaviors and start to diss the other parent, and the child doesn't even know. Subtle things like what you might be saying. Your father did that on the weekend? Oh, your mother's always doing that. Not helpful. The child loves both parents, and the child can be really confused by that. And the last thing we want to do is have a confused child. So developing a healthy sense of self-esteem requires them to be able to love both parents. And it's difficult to do when parents are being unloving toward the other, thinking that that's what they need to do. Just because your marriage or your romance is separate doesn't mean you do that when it comes to the parenting. So, should I get my child in therapy? Quick answer, no. If your child has some major concerns, of course you're going to get your child into therapy. Be involved though. You have a right as a parent to get to know the therapist. Find a therapist that follows family systems theory. They'll include you. They'll want your information for the assessment process. They'll want to get to know the developmental history of your child, as well as include you in some of the suggestions and strategies that you can do to help your child overcome whatever challenges they are facing. So separating and divorce, get your child into therapy? Yes, right along with yourself. If you like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell will help you get notified when we come out with new videos. That free tip I was telling you about, a very helpful resource. The book, Cooperative Parenting and Divorce, is by Boyan and Termini. It talks about 8 different major concepts involved with adjusting afterwards. And probably one of the most important that people don't want to talk about is disengaging. Disengaging. You're no longer romantic. You're disengaging that part of the relationship, which is intricately intertwined with your parenting. That's a complex process. So think about that book, Cooperative Parenting and Divorce, Shielding Your Children from Conflict. Thanks again for looking for resources for yourself to improve your parenting. And remember, take care of